You're listening to 42 Olives, and this is Linda interviewing Lyn Buchanan in Alamogordo, New Mexico. Lyn Buchanan has written an absolutely wonderful book called The Seventh Sense. It's available on Amazon and also on Kindle. I highly recommend reading this book. I found it absolutely fascinating and read it in no time at all. Lyn Buchanan's website is crviewer.com and is well worth going to. Do read his analogies, which really help understanding much of what Lyn says. Do also follow us on Facebook on 42 Olives for more information and links on the exploration of consciousness, but also for more information and links pertaining to the report mentioned by Lyn Buchanan about the Husick group. The report, you can find that on husickgroup.com. This podcast has not been edited since we wanted to get this information out as soon as possible. So, here we go.
Okay, so just a little bit of housekeeping. We're here with Lyn Buchanan today in Alamogordo, New Mexico. Beautiful Alamogordo, New Mexico. And we're going to have what we like to call a kitchen table discussion.
Good, okay.
And our audience, I think, is probably not your usual audience. And we don't spend a great deal of time explaining what everything it is you've done in your life.
Oh,
because
yeah, that's good.
What we'll do is we will provide them with a synopsis and your bio,
good.
Links to your website and your book.
Yeah,
so
that's all the past anyway. When everybody was wanting my stories,
I
want to hear your stories. You're the future.
Yeah, okay. Let's go there. So we will just take a brief moment and orient our audience.
Yeah.
If you would, in fact, just for the people who don't know, can you give our listeners a brief overview of what CRV is and what impact CRV has had in your life?
Excuse me. CRV is it stands for Controlled Remote Viewing. It's the method used for psychic spying by the U.S. military and was developed in the laboratory and then tested, of course, in the field by the military and had a almost 80% accuracy rate, which is, I think somebody figured the odds one time, it's 1 in 15 billion that you can get a steady accuracy rate of that. And anyway, what it is, your subconscious mind has some psychic ability. Your conscious mind has reasoning ability. CRV, at its most basic level, is an interview and report process where your conscious mind interviews your subconscious, asks it questions, it psychically gets the answer, brings back the answer, and passes it to the conscious mind. So you get the answer. The way it does that, this was all invented by Ingo Swann in New York. The way it does that is the same way that martial artists do it. It uses the body. And so you don't just go into space and get, get impressions. You ask the subconscious mind to tell you what the site is about, and it gives you a smell, and it gives you a sort of a daydream type vision, and it lets you hear things and so on, using your physical body to tell you what's at the site. So it's a martial art.
Very good. Thank you. We're particularly interested in how CRV interacts with consciousness.
Yeah.
Now that's a pretty big question.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Since nobody knows what consciousness is anyway, yeah.
Well, hey, do you have a definition of consciousness?
Not really.
Oh, okay.
I am, therefore I think.
I am, therefore I CRB, right?
That's right.
Yeah. Okay.
Well,
Well,
consciousness is your awareness of the things around you, and once you get into the five senses, those are the physical things around you. You also have a sixth sense, which is physical, and that is the ambiance. You walk into a room and everybody's happy in there, all of a sudden you feel it, or everybody's sad or angry, you feel that. And that's a repeatable feeling. There's just no body part to stick it to, so scientists don't recognize it. But it is your sixth sense. The seventh sense is your psychic ability, and that is you can send your mind into a room halfway around the world and pick up the ambiance, the taste, the smells, the sounds, and so forth there. And so your psychic sense is not your sixth sense, it's your seventh sense. And that's the way we treat it in controlled remote viewing.
mm-hmm. And now, if we were to imagine how this happens, that you're actually able to send is that how you see it, that you send your senses, or that...
Actually, CRV is controlled remote viewing, which is what the military used, is fundamentally different in one way from all the remote viewings that you're going to read about on the website and all. Those remote viewings are basically reworkings of psychic things that have been done for centuries, and they work. That's good. In CRV, one of the major features of CRV that made it interesting to the military is that, excuse me, as you get these impressions back from your subconscious, you sort of mentally build a mini virtual reality of the target, and that's what you're paying attention to. So you're paying attention to your own body. Because of that, no guard dogs over in some foreign country walking around a secure facility, they don't alert, because you can't get caught with CRV. With regular psychic functioning, somebody can feel you there and the dog or the cat will suddenly alert. That doesn't happen with CRV. And so, like the Russians believe in psychic spying. I mean, they developed it pretty highly. And when the guard dog alerts, they have a meeting the next day, should we go to plan B? With CRV, the dog never alerts. The information we get is good, and they never go to plan B, so it stays good. And so that's why it was so useful in gathering intelligence on enemies.
So it kind of appears as though in consciousness there are at least two ways, and probably more, of accessing information.
Sure.
In one way, you would project yourself or your astral body or your mind or whatever to some place, and that's, while not physical, actually detectable, so it must have some...
It has some energy of some kind, yeah.
Yeah. So with CRV, what we're doing is I know that we're interviewing our subconscious, and our subconscious is reporting to us.
And it's reporting to the body, and the conscious mind pays attention to the body.
Okay.
So it never sends anything over there to get caught.
Yeah. But the really interesting part is, how does the subconscious get that? Now, Ingo called it the signal line. Is that because they needed a name for what nobody knows is going on?
Ingo was getting paid big money, and he was the world's expert. And so they always say, where does the information come from? What's he going to say? I don't know. So he says, oh, it comes from the signal line. And everybody says, oh, okay.
So in the meantime, from when I know that Ingo has passed,
yes,
and it's been many years since this was developed, and still in all of this time, has there been any further elucidation of what this process is and how we can know these things?
Yes. When it came into the military, of course, we keep data. And so all of the targets we had, all of the sessions we did, all of the things we tried out to see if we could improve on the English Swan method, we kept data.
Mm-hmm.
And we didn't say, oh, this feels good, so I think we're going to use it. No, the data would tell us, did that work or did that not work?
Mm-hmm.
If the data said it didn't work, we dumped it. If the data said it worked, usually we would go back to Ingo and see if this fit the English Swan method, and those things that worked and did, we went ahead and kept developing the English Swan method. We learned a lot about the human mind, and in all of this, what you're dealing with is the human mind, and so the human mind can be conscious of things halfway around the world, across space. Ingo did a session one time on the Jupiter probe, and it would be 12 years before the Jupiter probe would reach Jupiter, and he told what it would see as it went into the gas clouds and all that. And he projected mountains, and the scientists said, no, it's a gas planet, you're not going to have mountains. And sure enough, there were the mountains. So not only that distance in space, but also in time, you can be conscious of things centuries ago or centuries in the future.
And I know a little bit about Ingo. I never got to meet him, but I've read a little bit about him.
Yeah.
And Ingo was an exceptional human being.
Oh, very, yes.
So we don't want to downplay that. But having said that, CRV is the kind of thing that I think pretty much everybody can do. Now, you're the expert, so I'm not going to put words in. But is there a spectrum of talents? And I mean, Ingo's up here, and the rest of us are a little below that. But is this an even distribution in terms? Can anybody do this?
We have never found anybody who can't do it. To whatever degree they have the natural talent for. Most people who even have never had any psychic experience in their life try it, and they're just amazed, and they think, oh, I really am psychic, and their natural ability may be small, but it's more than they ever knew. And some people, of course, find out that their psychic ability is enormous, and it changes their life completely. But Ingo was very exceptional, very talented, but he was also very orderly, scientific-minded, which doesn't always happen in the same person.
Mm-hmm.
And so he was able to codify what he was doing, and he would sit down in his basement there, in New York, and do these sessions where he would, what's going to be on page 35 of next week's magazine that I'm going to get. And he would do that, and then he would get the magazine. He would score each and every perception, and he was very orderly minded, and in that case, in that way, he was able to codify the process. Once he codified it, of course, the military got involved, and so then he started teaching the members of the remote viewing unit, which formed afterwards, and we became very proficient in it, and we've kept developing it. So right now, I have some students who are doing 98% accuracy.
Wow.
And one of them, there was a psychic spying contest, and so they asked me to get a target. I took a picture of the roof of a building, and I said, okay, your task is, since you're a spy, tell me what goes on inside the building, draw me a floor plan of the inside of the building, tell what goes on in each room of that building, how many people are usually in those rooms and all that. And he came out with 97%. The only reason he came out with that he missed the 3 points was that he had accurately described what was going on and the number of people and all that in one room, but he had reported it in another room.
Mm.
And so, for a spy, that could get them killed if they go in the wrong room. And so we subtracted 3 points, but other than that, 100% accuracy.
Wow.
And we have some people who are highly talented who can do that.
Now, is that a result? I think that the accuracy rate when the unit that you were in was active was, I think you said 80%?
It was 72.8%.
Wow.
So it was, that's far above wild guessing, and that's way far above what most psychics can get. If you database the work of a psychic rather than just listening to anecdotes, you find out that psychic functioning is extremely low. It really is. Mainly because they're waiting for impressions to hit. Whereas with CRV, it's like that old cartoon of the buzzard, said, wait, hell, I'm going to go kill something. With CRV, we just go to our subconscious mind and say, here's what we need. It goes, gets it, and brings back the information.
Mm-hmm.
So that's why it's called controlled remote viewing, because the remote viewing is controlled.
And you were always the data guy, right?
Oh, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you kept all the data, you handled the data?
I took over from Joe McMonagle, who also kept the data before me. Yeah.
Oh, I got it. Okay. So I guess I got kind of a dual question here. The first question is, because this one student I understand who got the 98% is, again, at the top end of the game.
He's top end of the game.
Yeah. But
not everybody can do that.
Has ability overall, as time has gone on, have you seen changes?
Yes. You've heard of Rupert Sheldrake.
Oh, yeah.
And morphic resonance. The more we learn to do this, it appears that the easier it is for new people coming in to learn it. And the more morphic resonance we've created seems to be making it easier for new people to come in. I know before I came into the unit, the training time was 2 years. When I came into the unit, I did my training in about 9 months to proficiency. And then I became the trainer after that. And then the last people who came into the unit, they were picking it up in 2-3 months. And, to total proficiency.
Mm-hmm.
And it seems that morphic resonance is actually working.
Do you think it would have anything at all to do with the fact that the training techniques changed, or did they change?
Quite a bit. They changed, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. They changed, and they have become... I know Paul Smith teaches the straight English Swan method without change.
Mm.
And he has seen this development as well. But he teaches, as I understand, just rote memorization of the English Swan method. I've always just sucked at memorizing things. And so for me, if you understand everything about it, you don't have to memorize it. And so when I teach for understanding of the process, what's going on. I explain it sometimes to the point where people go to sleep, but that way they don't have to memorize everything, and it becomes embedded in their understanding, and so they just do it naturally. Yeah.
My second question about the data is that I understand that certain viewers have a propensity to be more accurate at certain types of perceptions, like sound.
Right.
Or...
Yeah, and this is one of the things that the database is critical on for doing operational work.
Mm-hmm.
You have you have 10 viewers, okay? One's good at shapes, one's good at color, one's good at, something else. What most of these psychic groups will do is they will give, they want the color of the getaway car, okay? So they give it to everybody. And then they try to average it together, And with a database, you're able to look and say, hey, this guy is 98% good at color. He's not good at shapes. And so we task him with the color. Then the guy that's good at shapes, we ask him to draw the car. And so that way, the people who are good at things. And so we can take people who have an overall average of, let's say, 70%, and by selective tasking toward their strengths, we can come up with a constant average of 90% accuracy.
Has anyone ever looked to see if there is a correlation between people's natural interests in their walking everyday life and
Yes.
their accuracy in their perceptions?
Yes, and that does have an effect.
Mm-hmm.
The big effect, though, is not in their perception of the target. It's in their reporting of the target. They will get something that will have let's say, a practice target, and it has rubber flooring, red walls, and a big round window. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And so the viewer says, round, red, rubbery, and they report, it's a beach ball. They're getting the perceptions, but they're not reporting what they're getting. It's like half of the news reporters. They interview somebody and then they report what they think the guy said,
Mm-hmm.
not what the guy actually said. And so that's the problem that most new viewers face, is that instead of describing, they try to identify.
Mm-hmm.
And when they do, what we do is we say, okay, you can't use any nouns.
I've come up against that.
Yes.
Yeah.
And, if it's red, round, rubbery, you report to me that the target has something red, something round, something rubbery. I don't care if it is a beach ball. I don't care. Don't use a noun.
So I guess kind of, what I'm thinking now is that would artists
Mm-hmm.
who are more, color and shape focused be natural? I'm still kind of looking for that subconscious conscious connection, and all of us connect through consciousness, I think, slightly differently.
Yeah, and this is true that most people, like who are artists, are really good at size and shape relationships as well as color.
Okay.
Mechanics are usually good at sizes and shapes, and are better than at that than they are at personal relationships or anything like that.
Mm-hmm.
And so your background fits in very much to your ability to remote view.
Has anybody given any thought as to why that might be?
It's what you know. It's what you know. We've always said, if you want to teach somebody to help in the medical field, don't teach a psychic, teach a doctor. He knows what's going on, you know,
Okay.
and he's very acutely accurate to all the little problems and things like that. So he's going to pick up on those. The housewife from Peoria, she's not going to pick up on those, you know.
I guess I'm kind of wondering, is it a matter of they don't get it, or, I mean, the subconscious doesn't get it, or the conscious mind doesn't decode it well enough for them to...
The conscious mind doesn't decode it. Or
okay.
it decodes it incorrectly.
Mm-hmm.
It says, oh, it's a ball.
Doesn't understand it.
That's right, yeah.
Doesn't understand what it's looking at because it's just not familiar enough with the subject.
That's right, yeah.
Very interesting.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, yeah, your background does basically determine. We also have a policy. I have a policy, PSI. Let's say we get someone who's just not really good at anything, okay? But they get tons of information, may be right, may be wrong, whatever. So we'll go to a detective and we'll say, what do you need to know about this case? Detectives are terrible at telling you things. They're always good at asking you things. And so they tell you all this and the other and say, okay, you don't get an answer. I go to the person who gives me the most impressions possible. And then I take that back to the detective and he goes down, oh, we know this, oh, we don't want to know that. Here's what we want to know. And now then we have devised the tasking. So even people who are not good at remote viewing are good at remote viewing operations. We can use them.
So if you're remote viewing events for crime solving, obviously you're looking into the past.
Unless you're predicting a crime to take place.
Have you done that?
Oh, sure, yeah.
Predicting, this is like a
Yeah.
crime pre-type?
Yeah, several times. Well, right after 9/11, they were wondering if there's going to be another attack.
Oh.
And we found the next attack and where it was going to be and when. And so they were there and caught the people coming in from the submarine that appeared and caught them. And so the attack never happened. And this is the paradox in remote viewing. The future is changeable. So if I remote view a future that right now is going to happen, and then we prevent it from happening, I was wrong.
You can't win that one.
You can't win, yeah. But in that case, and in another case, I was working for a police force on the southern border, and they wanted to know when the next big drug shipment was coming across. And I made my X on the map and told them when. That night, they had border guards and police out there, and about 100 yards from where I had marked my X, they came across with a big shipment of drugs. They caught them, and yeah, but you can do that.
Well, in one way, it's good to know that the future is not predetermined.
That's right.
And another way, it's like, so mentally or sensory, we can travel in time.
Yep.
Forward, backward, sideways.
In CRV, we have what's called a move command. And you're getting a viewer who is describing what's there. And we'll say, okay, move back 15 feet. And now describe what you're seeing. And the scene will change, and that change will give us some more information. In CRV, there is no difference in protocols. There is no difference at all between saying move back 15 feet and move back 15 years. Same command, same protocol. The viewer does the same thing, only now he's seeing that thing 15 years previous. You can also say move forward 5 years, just like you can say move forward 5 feet, and the viewer will see the site 5 years afterwards.
So if we look forward into the future and it's not predetermined, and the future can change when it finally arrives and we experience it, can the past change?
We have found that you can influence the past, but you can't change it. And that takes a long explanation that probably you don't have time for.
Okay.
But you can definitely influence the past. I did a 4-year study on influencing the past, and in the process of passing hindsight back to myself and picking up the hindsight that was coming from my future, within 2 years we paid off all of our bills. We owned our house, owned all of our cars. We had money in the bank, more than we could use, and if you learn how to do it, and you want to win the lottery, go to the day after the lottery, pick up the paper and look at the numbers. Pass that back to yourself. And right now, listen for the numbers.
Okay, this is a new one. I hadn't heard this before. Now, you did write about the story about self-influencing in your book.
That's right.
So I'm familiar with that story, and the listeners can find that in your book, The Seventh Sense.
Right.
But this lottery thing, I don't remember reading about that. Was that
I don't do the lottery. There's a little Baptist child inside of me that says, you're going to hell if you do that, And I guarantee you, if I go to Las Vegas, I will lose everything. If I bet on the lottery, I will. Well, one time there was a $40 million lottery in the D.C. area, and I wasn't doing anything at work that day, and so I sat there for almost 7 hours getting the numbers for the D.C. lottery. I lived in Maryland, and so on the way home I stopped at a 7-Eleven and bought it, and I was 100% accurate. I got all the numbers correct, but I bought a Maryland lottery ticket. My mind, somewhere in my subconscious, it says, I ain't going to hell.
I tell you what, the power of the subconscious is really something, isn't it?
It really is. It's strong, yeah.
And you cannot go against it.
Raise a child in the way he will go, and he will not depart from it.
Wow. Yeah, I kind of had that same sense. Now, I'm going to ask you a couple lottery questions here since you brought it up.
Okay.
My understanding was that CRV is not good
It's
at
not.
viewing letters, and that is extremely difficult.
It's extremely difficult, which is why people take the basic course or the intermediate or the advanced course, and they try it and they don't win anything. You go through the advanced course and then get experience for the next 10 years, fine. After that, you're going to be a millionaire. But until you've done all that, it's luck,
So I have a little bit of a theory about why numbers and letters might be difficult, and that is that they don't actually create any energy signature, being ink on a piece of paper.
Yeah. Well, ink on a piece of paper, we can read documents that locked in safes across the world. But it's not so much that, is that it's a concept. It's a conceptual construct.
Okay.
And those are very hard. And you get a seasoned, highly trained, highly accurate remote viewer,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, they can do that.
Really?
But and read documents in safes and all that. But for the most people aren't going to put in all that time and effort. And even once you get all that time and effort, then you start off by getting the first number on the first ball of the Pick 3 lottery. You keep trying that over and over and over again until you have a good record of about 80%. Then you spend the next 6 months getting 2 numbers and over and over and over again. Once you get the 2 numbers, you go for 3 numbers. Then you try 4 numbers, and by this time another 3 or 4 years has gone by as you learn to do this. And then maybe 5 years later, yeah, you're a millionaire. But, we're talking here maybe 15, 20 years. But if you don't do it 15 or 20 years, you're still going to be trying here.
Okay, so for those of us who are not that interested in winning the lottery,
Yeah.
and I have to say that I feel a little bit like you do. There's something about the CRV
Yeah.
that somehow I feel like that's cheating in a way. I can't really express it.
Yeah.
But my question then would be, okay, so for people like myself, and I've just taken the basic
Yeah.
course,
Mhm.
from Lori Williams, one of
Right.
your students,
Mhm.
and I really enjoy the process
Oh, yeah.
of doing CRV.
Yeah.
I just love doing it.
It's neat.
It is
really
neat.
is.
It's really cool.
Yeah.
But I don't have a real practical application in my life for CRV. I'm not
Yeah.
certain I'm willing to do police work because I have a tendency to be pretty sensitive.
Police work can really give you nightmares.
Yeah.
It's you've got to. I mean, a lot of people say, I want to help bring home missing kids, and in order to do that, you may have to view the torture, the rape, and all of that, and a lot of these psychic groups that meet, they'll have a highly talented person who doesn't really know it, and they'll give some missing person or murder case, and that person actually experiences it. Listen, you have just wasted a good talent because they won't come back. Yeah, it's when people say they want to bring home missing kids and all, I say, well, let's learn something else first and use something else to teach you remote viewing.
Yeah. Well, outside of police work, and winning the lottery, what are the benefits to someone like me, just your average person on the street,
Yeah.
other than just it's an awful lot of fun to do and really interesting? I'm certain there's other benefits.
Oh, yeah, there are. One, and I'll go ahead and use the Q word to let you ask your further questions. You learn what time really is. And time is not everything they taught you about time in school. It's not true. But you also learn how to go ahead and look into your future. And, that's a beautiful car. I really like that car. But it's going to fall apart in a year. Maybe I'd better buy this other one. And the quality of your life and your family life, everything, benefits. As well as things like you're talking to some salesman, okay? And because one of the exercises we do on the sixth sense, the ambiance, and use that with the CRV, you know whether they're telling the truth or not. You know whether they're just trying to sell you something. You know what's true and what's a lie, and so on.
Now, do you feel that? How do you have that sense? How does that information come to you?
The ambiance, plus you become sensitive to the world around you, And in the process, you not only start picking up on ambiance that you didn't know before, but you also start picking up on facial expressions and things that are right there in front of you that you hadn't seen before. We have some exercises. The way we figure it, and this is true by the way, if you can't tell me the picture that's on the wall and what's in it without looking, it's right behind you there. You're sitting right behind it. I mean, it's sitting right behind you.
Mm-hmm.
If you can't tell me what's on that picture, how am I going to send your mind halfway around the world and you tell me what's on the picture there?
Mm-hmm.
And so we teach you on the Men Who Stare at Goats. He says, okay, what was the color of the chairs in the lobby? You don't know, but I know because I was there once, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And you become extremely aware of your surroundings. You also pick up on the emotions. You know, many people will be in pain or they'll be angry or something, and they don't get so mad about the fact that you don't sympathize with them as they do about the fact that you don't even notice. That's what makes them mad, you know. And this way you notice. And they say one of the worst things a wife can say to their husband
Mm-hmm.
is, I'll tell you what's wrong. You don't know what's wrong. That's what's wrong. And she'll be right, you know, and he will be totally helpless to do anything about it because he doesn't know.
He has no recourse.
He has no recourse. But becoming sensitive, you know, before it becomes a problem, you know. And so, yeah, it enhances your life in many ways. Plus, you taste things, you see colors, you know,
Mm-hmm.
that you wouldn't see before.
So, let's talk about time a little bit.
All right.
I suspect you know a whole lot more about time.
From experience, yes. And also from studying the database,
Uh-huh.
where we had time shifts and all that. The one or two sentence way to explain it
Mm-hmm.
is space-time is real,
Yes.
and space is three-dimensional.
Yes.
Time is a part of space-time.
Mm-hmm.
Therefore, time is three-dimensional too.
Mm-hmm.
That's simple.
Yeah.
When you go putting that into practice, that's when you realize you can go sideways in time, you can go up and down, you can go backwards in time, forward in time.
Now, when you say you can go sideways, up, and down in time, are you
You've got to experience it. There's no explaining that, okay?
talking mentally or physically?
Mentally, yeah.
Mentally,
Mhm,
okay.
yeah.
All right.
Your awareness, your consciousness.
Yeah, your conscious awareness.
There is a strong suspicion among those of us who have been playing with this and keeping data on it, that there will come a time when we can send our bodies not only in time but in space as well,
Mm-hmm.
you know, and so on.
Yeah.
We're not there yet.
No, we're not. Okay. So, how would you see CRV as perhaps a survival skill for the future?
Oh, yeah.
How would that be?
Well, I hate to sound like a prepper here, okay? Preppers, you know, squirrel away food and weapons and all that in case something happens.
Mm-hmm.
The website that I told you about, something's going to happen. And most people are not going to be prepared for it. But with CRV, you can not only prepare for the future,
Mm-hmm.
but you can know what you're going to need to be prepared.
Wow.
And let's say you're up in the mountains in Kentucky or something, and you're collecting all these shotguns and and bullets and all that, and everything goes to pot, and you've got all these guns to protect yourself, but you didn't collect food. Maybe what you needed was food instead. Yeah.
If only I'd known.
If only I had known. Yeah. Or what is it? I wish I didn't know now what I didn't know before.
Yeah. So this report you mentioned, is that
Yeah.
going to be made public?
It is made public as of today.
Oh, really? Today?
Yes.
And so can we share that? The name of the report or the
Husick Group.
Husick Group,
.com. Yeah.
HUSICK.com.
Yes.
And that was today.
It was made public today.
Wow. When was the report created?
We have been working on this project with some of the best remote viewers, high accuracy rates, for about 6 to 8 months,
Wow.
and just we've gotten the government involved in it. We've gotten top scientists involved in it and everything else to correlate, or either correlate or contradict what we've been getting. And it's you need to read that.
Okay. Are you comfortable sharing with us the...
No,
just go read it. Okay,
just go
great.
read it, yeah.
And how far in the future is...
Go read it.
Go read it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Mhm.
We will go read it.
Yeah.
Okay. So we'll change the subject just a little bit.
Okay.
Thank you for sharing that
Yeah.
with us. I sincerely appreciate that.
Okay.
I know that when the military unit was being disbanded, because you talk about this in your book,
Yeah.
that some of the other fellows were, doing things to go on to a second life, carpentry or whatever.
Oh yeah.
But you chose to continue to do more research.
Well, I was doing research on my own.
Yeah.
But I'm a geek. I'm a computer geek, and so when I got out of the unit, I went to work for one of the Beltway Bandits doing computer programming, and it was, I guess, about 2 years after that they effectively declassified what we did. The controlled remote viewing was never classified in any way.
Mm-hmm.
The fact that the government used it and the targets they used it on,
Mm-hmm.
that was classified. When they declassified that, people found out that I was the trainer in the unit. And by that time, the unit had been closed for over a year. And they found out that I'd been trainer. And so I started getting like 80 phone calls a day wanting training. And I was driving at least 2 hours into DC every morning, working an 8 to 10 hour day, driving 2 hours home in the evening. And I thought, hey, there's bound to be a better life than that,
Mm-hmm.
And so I started saying, okay, well, I'll train some people on the weekends.
Mm-hmm.
And it paid well, and I finally realized I don't have to go into DC and program computers anymore. I can do what I love to do, and that is teaching remote viewing. So I started doing that.
Okay. One of my questions is that you mentioned in your training manual
Mm-hmm.
the Oracle at Delphi and Herodotus. Did I pronounce that correct? Is it?
I think so. Yeah.
Okay. Now, though that's history,
Yeah.
ancient history.
Yeah.
So there must have been some wisdom back there.
From everything I've read about it, the Oracle, there were holes in the floor around the chair where she sat,
Mm-hmm.
and these fumes would come up and put her into sort of a trance state.
Mm-hmm.
And once in the trance state, the conscious mind was out of the way, and the subconscious could just give its information. Now here's another difference between controlled remote viewing and remote viewing or psychic work. In controlled remote viewing, you keep your conscious mind alert and active. You keep your subconscious alert and active, and you keep your body on high alert so that it can pick up any impressions that are coming from your subconscious. Your conscious mind pays attention to your body and knows what it means, because over time you have set up a language, a physical language. And so many psychic methods will try to put you into an altered state or hypnosis or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And in CRV, you keep your conscious mind very alert and active. You don't go into an altered state.
No checking out.
No checking out. Mhm.
Yeah, you're right here, present while it's going
That's right.
on.
Yeah.
Okay. We'll wrap up here in a minute. Just
Okay.
maybe a couple of quick questions
Okay.
to bring us to a conclusion. What do you consider to be your greatest achievement?
My greatest achievement?
Yeah.
She just walked into the kitchen.
Good man.
Yeah.
Wisdom.
In remote viewing.
Yeah. Well, in your whole life, and I think that was the answer. I mean, if that's your greatest achievement,
Yeah.
it is.
The greatest achievement I feel that I had in remote viewing in the military operations
Yeah.
was that I detected a missile that was to be fired into the Holy of Holies in Ramadan, and Saddam Hussein was not going to show up for it. He was going to be sick. And when that was destroyed, it was an American missile that they had stolen and captured. And he was going to blame the U.S. on that, and the entire Arab world would come crashing in on the United States. I discovered that missile, where it was and all that, and they captured it before it could be fired. And I think that one session changed history drastically. Right now, if that had happened, there was no way we could have won a war like that. Right now, we would either be Muslim or dead.
Wow.
Those are two choices. And that one session, I think, was probably the most important one I ever did.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. So one more.
Okay.
Hoping to get one more old war story.
Oh, okay.
Everybody wants the old war
Oh
stories,
yeah,
right?
fat old soldiers telling war stories, yeah.
What was the most surprising thing that ever happened?
There are two,
Okay.
that for me are sort of equal. One, the Russians were developing a particle beam weapon,
Mm-hmm.
which would just destroy anything it hit. And so somebody, I won't say who, somebody tasked our unit with what's going on inside that beam.
Mm-hmm.
And no, you can't stick instruments in, poof, they're gone. And so somebody had the brilliant idea of asking a remote viewer to step into the beam.
Mm-hmm.
And so I got that task, and I did. And it was the most indescribably beautiful thing I have ever seen in my life. While I was there, I collected the information they needed, but it was just fantastically beautiful. And I would look down the beam and see myself in the past and the future. And when I would focus on it, I would come back to being myself. When I started playing with the beam, getting the information, all of a sudden I could see myself spread through time. And that particle beam, it was so strong. It actually changed time within the beam, and that was one of the most surprising and the most beautiful thing I've ever seen in my life. But the other one that just sticks with me, I had been doing the bad guys, personality assessments, and Idi Amin and all these, and giving personality assessments of the bad guys and plans and intentions for what they were going to do the next day and all that. And it was wearing thin on me. You pick up stuff and you just feel dirty afterwards, And so anyway, I went to the director and I said, give me Bozo the Clown, Mother Teresa or something like that. I can't do this anymore. And of course he said, you're a soldier, shut up and do your job, get out of my office. And so I went back, and a few days later I did another personality assessment. The first thing I said when I accessed the person was, whatever bad thing you think this guy did, he didn't do it. And they said, well, just go ahead and do the session. So I did the session, and my total summary at the end was, this is not a bad guy. This is a wonderful guy. Whatever bad you think he did, he didn't do it, And the monitor opened it up and I found out that it was a practice target, and the target was Jesus. And during that session, I had what's called a perfect site integration or bilocation. And in those, you cannot tell you're not at the target. I mean, the target is around you, it's real and all that. And in that session, I was standing there in front of this little Jewish guy, and there was no speaking back and forth, but all of a sudden I saw how perfect he was, and knew that I could never measure up. And basically, the message that he gave me from that is, whatever bad you've done, I've seen worse. Whatever good you've done, I've seen better. I accept you like you are.
Wow.
And, that one session changed my life. There were other sessions, by the way, when they were driving Saddam Hussein out of Kuwait. I did the session and I said, do not drive him north. He will set fire to all those wells if you drive him north. Drive him west and then north. Drive him west away from those wells and then north. And but do not drive him west. He will set fire to those wells. Nobody would do that, They drove him north, and every one of those wells was set fire to,
Wow.
And so that's one of those where it could have made a huge difference, but nobody paid attention.
Wow.
Do you know in Greek history who Cassandra was?
No, I know the name, but I don't.
Cassandra was a person who ticked Apollo off really badly, and he punished her by letting her know the future, but making it so that nobody would ever believe her.
Ooh.
And so she was always trying to save Troy, trying to save her fellow man, trying to save her family. Nobody would ever listen. She was always accurate, but nobody ever listened. And Troy burned, her family died, everything, And in the end, she went mad. But there's a book out called Warnings, and it talks about we're looking for Cassandras. We're looking for people who can tip the government and tip businesses and science off to what's going to happen. But we need to find a way to get them to listen.
Wow.
And so many times, I just sort of address myself as Cassandra. Hey, Cassandra, you screwed that one up. Couldn't get anybody to listen.
Wow.
So
It's a Sisyphean task with an ugly twist, isn't it?
that's right. It is. Yeah.
So you've given us stories from the incredibly beautiful
Yeah.
to the, I don't even know how to describe that type of frustration.
Just frustrating as can be.
Yeah.
One of the things that has hurt all of that is when they announced remote viewing to the world.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sorry, kooks and crazies and all that started saying, "I'm a remote viewer," and they started putting on Facebook, all over the internet, all this stuff that doesn't work, and that they've made up on their own. And as a result, it's gotten to where when you say controlled remote viewing, everybody says, "Oh, that's that crazy psychic stuff. I'm not listening to that." And so, if the government wanted to squash controlled remote viewing, hey, put it out to the kooks.
So, do you think CRV is going to continue to change into the future?
Yes.
How do you think that'll happen?
Well, what we have done, and you're now into CRV, we don't put anything on Facebook. We don't put any serious work on Facebook.
Yeah.
We don't put it out to the internet or anything like that. We very quietly just go to companies, go to the government, quietly work. Don't take credit for police stuff. A lawyer says, "Oh, you found this out by using psychics. Well, and that'll get the criminal off." And so we go very quietly, and we don't toot our horn. We just we're making a very good, solid end to businesses, to government, to police departments and scientists, research and development, and all that, simply by not going out and beating our chest and and all that. So when y'all start getting asked to do sessions, you'll probably get a non-disclosure agreement. You can do the session, and you'll get paid for it, but you can't tell anybody.
Yeah.
And so all of that hullabaloo that's on the internet, we just don't take part in that. We just very quietly do our jobs, and that's it.
I really like that idea of working to predict future events.
Yeah.
I haven't, I'm just learning, I'm new.
Yeah.
I love doing it, and I've been kind of looking for where I might like to add my contribution.
Yeah.
That sounds really interesting. So maybe, I'll go on and I'll continue my training at home, and when I get a little better, I'll see if I can find a spot there to contribute.
Most of the stuff that you will do project-wise on predicting the future, the goal is to make yourself wrong.
Okay. I can accept that.
We have an analogy, Joe's Bar and Grill. The criminal, the police want you to tell where the criminal is going to be at 9 o'clock. Well, at 9 o'clock, he's going to be at Joe's Bar and Grill eating dinner.
Yeah.
So the police come at 8:30, hide in the bushes. When he walks up to the grill, they arrest him, and at 9 o'clock he's in jail. So you were wrong. If you had said at 9 o'clock he'll be in jail, they would not have gone to Joe's Bar and Grill. He would be sitting there at 9 o'clock, and you would be wrong. It's paradoxical tasking,
Yeah.
And this is one of the problems with the working future.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I'd be perfectly willing to be wrong.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Alrighty, well, we're going to wrap this up for now and say thank you very much for sharing that with us.
I hope it helped, yeah.
I'm sure it will. And if we're really lucky, perhaps we'll get to come back another time.
Good,
and,
yeah.
and do another interview.
Hey, for y'all, the welcome mat will be right side up.
Thank you very
Okay.
much. We
Coffee will be warm.
sincerely appreciate it.
Okay.
Thank you.
Good. Thank you.
You have just heard Linda interviewing Lyn Buchanan on January 23, 2018. Again, do read his book called The Seventh Sense, available on Amazon and on Kindle. His website is crviewer.com. Do also follow us on our Facebook page called 42 Olives and join in the discussions. See you there.